This is from Biafrans Got Talent. We are letting Biafrans know the reason why we should remember those who gave their lives for us, those who died that we may live.
You died to end my suffering. You died fighting for my freedom. Your blood is the seed of redemption. You are my inspiration.
The deed no wrong with them, military shots at them. 67 to 70, we remember them. 2016, 38 May, memories still lives in our mind till today. Wonder why they refuse to publicize the genocide. The world media turn blind eyes to our plight. It's time to arise, land of the rising sun. Let's rise one more time, let's rise.
Yo, we will never forget our fallen heroes. Those who gave their life for us. Onitsha massacre, Iwata massacre, Aba massacre. We remember you. Alright.
Tell them I got that day. Remember when me tell you say I got that day. Yeah, I remember that one that called us a Bruce Mero. But the way you put like a papa nuku. But then the way you me tell you what I look pandi, what pandi Samiro, me tell you what I day. For me the front and the rest of man, I tell you what I am. Me never give up, me tell them
Fallen heroes, I want to promise you something today. We must fight together, no retreat and no surrender. We must hold them down till the end of time. The most important thing is that we will restore Biafra. May your soul rest in peace.
I look up to the sky with tears in my eyes. For other Biafrans, and for freedom had to die. We will never forget you as the days go by. You are always in my heart, you'll never be apart.
They fought for our freedom, they died for our freedom. They fought the Nigerian soldiers in the war front, without food, without guns, for our freedom, for our life, for our own good, for our children. We love them, our heroes, we want them.
My heart bleeds when I saw them slain. Where will I be now, if not then? They will remain indelible in my heart, forever, 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 and never, and never, and never.
We serve in your plantation, and the way you paid us back with your bloody starvation. We bled in our history, that the death of my people is a mystery. No going back to get to a victory. I had a voice now call for vengeance. I never get bummed, I'ma blow like a vengeance.
Yo, we will never forget our fallen heroes. Those who gave their life for us. Onitsha massacre, Iwata massacre, Aba massacre. We remember you. Alright.
Where will I be now? If not you, you died at Mali.
Then we are starved to death because of our freedom, and they paid the debt for our freedom. Flag high for those that died in the genocide, fighting for you and I. There is pain in our heart, we bleeding inside, tears in the eyes of our fallen heroes.
This is for my fallen heroes. Give them a motivation, people. It's like I'm looking
we are more than conquerors. Yeah, you know what it is. We must revenge, and we must stand to represent who we are.
Akara m ihe mbe na-eme mbe si ma chọrọ ofu ukwu ehi ma nke ọzọ mụ achọrọ ihe niile ma ụkwụ ya ma aka ya ma isi ya ma olu ya anyị ga-adọbiri wee pụọ na nke onwe anyị tigata azụ etu anyị nọ tupu ndị ọcha wee bịa ebe a nwa aha obodo ebe a nwe ndị mmadụ n'ime tupu nwa bekee si ebe o si hapụ obodo ya ọ bịa ebe a ọkpọrọ onye nke ọkpọrọ okeke ọkpọrọ okafọ dakata anyị isi ọ sị n'ụbọchị nke taa na anya aha anyị wuzi Naijiria anyị na-aza aha na-emeghị omimi n'ime ya ihe ngwa gị gbasị biko kọwara m ihe Naijiria pụtara ewepụ ya kọwara m ọmụwa ga-aza aha osimiri ka osimiri ga-aza aha mụnwa n'ihi ihe anyị na-ekwuwu na ebe a rụgidere ụlọ a na ọ jọgburu onwe ya ọ dịghị mma Naijiria agaghị emekọtanwu ihe ọzọ ihe ọjọọ emego n'obodo a arụ emego egbugo ndị be anyị aka na-egbukwa anyị ndị Fulani wee chere na mabata be anyị ka na-egbukwa ndị be anyị ruo ụtụtụ echi a na-asị m na ọ ga-adị mma oge ọ na-ekwekwu ka nwee mmekọrịta bụ nke ndị nụkọ nke ndị ụmụnne ha egosighị anyị ọtụtụ mgbe ha kpọrọ anyị asị onye ajụrụ ajụ na-ajụ onwe ya ha jụrụ anyị aja ama njụ onwe anyị agbanyeghị na anyị nwe ngwa ahịa n'ugwu Awụsa agbanyeghị na anyị na-azụ ahịa ebe niile dị iche iche na-eme nke ọma kama onye gara ndụ kpakụ onye ire rie n'ihe ọ Ndụbụisi ka anyị na-ekwu okwu ya ka anyị cheghata azụ ebe a ruo obodo anyị ka o wee maa mma wee karịa obodo ndị ọcha na mma ọhịa anyị na-arịọ nwoke na ugwu nwee nkwanye ugwu n'ime onwe anyị ọnwa anyị pụọ n'iro a na-etigbu anyị pụọ n'iro ekwu okwu asị ọ bụ gịnị ma anyị ji wee ekwu okwu ụmụ ihe ndị a ka anyị sị na anyị agaghị anabatakwa ya ọzọ
akụkọ akọrọ anyị bụ na ọkụkọ na ewu agaghị nzukọ ụmụ anụmanụ a na-emezi mgbe ọbụla a chọrọ ịchụ aja ejiri ọkụkọ maọbụ nwụchụ aja mgbe ọbụla a chọrọ ime ka Naijiria dị n'otu enwe ha na-eto esi mgbe kpam akpụrụ ndị Igbo ọ pụtara na anyị bụ ọkụkọ maọbụ ka ọ pụtara na anyị agaghị nzukọ mere ya bụ ihe eji eme anyị bụ ndị Igbo ụdị na ọbara ndị Igbo ahụ kpafu n'obodo Naijiria gaja
ọ bụ site na akpamasị ihe na-eme anyị dịka ihe mere ndị ji oge mgbe gara aga etu akụkọ mba niile dị iche iche ji kpọọ ụmụ Izrel asị a na-egbu ha a na-egbu ha a na-egbu ha afọ niile aka na-egbu ha o wee ruo oge ugbu anyị asị na ogbugbu a na-egbu anyị na ọ dịghị anyị mma ọ ka mma na onwe ihe ekegbuo anyị wu nwere onwe njem a nke anyị na-aga kama na na-esi etete n'ụtụtụ asị na onwe onye gburu ebe a onwe ha na-ekwu okwu o doo na onye onwe onye n'aka ụkọchukwu n'ugwu Awụsa ebepụ isi ọnwụghị ofu ugboro ọnwụghị ugboro abụọ ọnwụghị ugboro atọ ọnwụghị ugboro anọ ọ bụ ruo ole mgbe ka a ga-egbugide anyị wee rue anyị asị mba na anyị ga-aga ka anyị nwee ike wee nwere onwe anyị ọ ka mma na anyị nwụrụ ebe anyị na-azọ nwere onwe tụbụ na anyị nọ n'ụlọ etu a mmadụ bụ mabata n'ime ụlọ mbịa bupụ m isi a sị na-achọghị ụdị nka
onye si na ya ga-ata anyị ahụhụ ma ọ bụ na anyị fee arụsị anyị wee na-efe arụsị mgbe were iwe gị na ọmụma gị wee bịa leta anyị ụmụ anyị wee na-anwụsị ụfọdụ nọ n'ụzọ ije ha anaghị alọta ụlọ ọzọ nne na nna wee na-ata ahụhụ wee na-ata ikikere eze nwaanyị konye ka ọ gaa ubi gaa rụọ ọrụ Fulani chiri ehi bata ebe ala ihe nne n'iyi okwu ebepụ ya isi anyị bụ ka anyị kpọpụ onye nwe anyị n'ugwu Awụsa ahụ ejide anyị wee gbuo ihe ọbụla anyị mara aka n'ime ha si maka ha aga n'ihu elekwa ọdụ ụgbọ mmiri n'igwe ọcha bụ ememiri ọya nke dị na Kalaba otu aka ahụ anyị na-ala nsọ ebe Biafra ebe ndị kọstọm sokwenye anyị n'etiti anyị anọghị n'ime mmiri kama kọstọm juru ebe niile ha wee na-ata anyị ahụhụ anyị kwe sịpụta anyị ka kpọchie anyị kwe sịpụta anyị ka gbagbuo anyị onye nwe anyị na Chineke na nke bi n'igwe ọ bụ ụzọ dị agha ka isi na-ekwu ndị nro anyị n'anya wee karịa ndị nke gị akwa anyị bụ ụmụ Chineke akọba aha anyị ka anyị na-aza akọba anyị nwe na-aza ike Chukwu akọba anyị nwe na-aza amara Chineke akọba anyị nwe na-aza Chisom akọba anyị nwe na-aza Chizoba nna nke dị nsọ onye ime eluigwe dịka otu onye iro bi na anyị bụ ụmụ gị bịa ka iwe zọpụta anyị bịa ka iwe napụta anyị n'aka ọjọọ ihe bịa ka iwe lụọrọ anyị ọgụ bịa ka iwe dịtụ ozu ọ bụ ọkọwa mgbe e milere Goliat Chineke nna nke igwe ruo ememiri Fero sikwa otu a mee ka Fero ka ọ guzo n'ihu ụmụ ndị anyị bi obi ka o wee taa akwụkwọ igiri ụtọ ọzọ
Chineke ga na-edu anyị n'ụzọ niile nke ezi omume. Ọ bụla adịghị na anyị na-aga ndagwurugwu onyinye ọnwụ. Ọ bụ nwa bụ ekele n'igwe n'ụwa, nwunye ọbụla kere gị n'oge malite n'oge ọgwụgwụ. Kama anyị onwe anyị bụ anọkwa ahụ ofu ụbọchị anyị ga-anwụ n'ezie. Kama ma akpọ na ogbu gị na-anọgide ebe mgbe ebighị ebi. Ọ bụ ya mere anyị ji were gị n'anya isi. Anyị wee na-asị nna nke dị nsọ. Bịa ka iwe gosi anyị Biafra na ndụ na-abụghị n'ọnwụ. Bịa ka iwe mee ka ebe gị na amara gị wee kpuchiri anyị ka uwe. Bịa ka iwe zọpụta ndị nke gị. Bịa ka iwe mee ka Biafra wee bịa. Ka anyị na-ewetụta na nsọpụrụ na ịja mma site n'aha gị onye bụ Chukwu nke abịa ma.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this very evening program. I appreciate every one of you that has connected wherever you are connecting from. As you join us on this very program, please kindly like and share on your platform. Share to family and friends. Share to your neighbors. Invite those who are supposed to hear us to come here, to come and engage us. Remember, in all our program, we always make it clean and make it plain that we are not here for any form of propaganda or blackmail. We are not here to attack any persons or individual. We are not here to push any other agenda except the freedom of the Biafran people. So wherever you are watching this program from, I urge you to invite someone to join us on this platform. Invite them, including those that have contrary opinion, those who feel that they know better, those who feel that we are not saying it the way they want and they want it to be said their own way. Invite them. Those that have superior argument, invite them. Whether Biafrans or non-Biafrans, even one Nigerians, invite them. Let them come here and bring their argument and let us sort it out. I welcome every one of you and I wish you all a very happy weekend. This is our weekend program, as you know. Every evening we come here and speak in the evening, and I'm not going to take much of your time this evening. I'm going to try to make it as brief as we can. Just exercise little patience as we go into the program so that you can understand what is going on. I want you to pay close attention. Don't get distracted. No matter what happens, no matter what the enemies are saying, I bet you when you follow up this program at the end of the day, you'll be glad you did. Remember our evening program. We come here to educate Biafrans, and also we go into their conventional media to expose what they are hiding. So everyone that have connected, all you need to do is to be patient with us. Join us on this program until we get to the last point of it. My fellow Biafrans, you are all welcome to this very program this evening. And for those who are joining us for the very first time, and those who are seeing our platform for the very first time, remember, in this platform, we don't come here to instigate violence. We do not come here to preach hate. We don't come to attack people or individuals. We come here to preach the message of Biafra. It is left for you to listen and then make use of the information that is coming. It is up to you, the decision you make, whether you're listening to us or you don't. Whatever you do with the information you get from here, it is up to you. My duty is to create the awareness, to give you that opportunity to think twice, to give you the opportunity to have a critical thinking on what you believe to be right. That thing you believe to be the right thing might not just be the right thing. That thing you are doing and you are thinking that you are the right path, you might be doing the greatest mistake of your life. That is why we come here every evening to come and speak. And this evening we are speaking on the propaganda versus Biafra. Propaganda of the Janjaweed versus Biafra, including propaganda of the Biafran people versus Biafra itself. Who is really lying to the world? Who is lying to the world? Is it the Janjaweed or we, the Biafran people? They call us terrorists. Who fears the truth? This evening we're asking question. Who is really lying to the whole world? That is the question everybody should be asking. We need an answer. Who is lying to the world? Propaganda versus Biafra. They call us terrorists. Who is afraid of the truth that we are saying? Who is afraid of that truth that the Biafran people are preaching? Who is afraid? They called Mazi Nnamdi Kanu terrorists because of this truth. And they convicted him without an existing law because of this truth. Mazi Simon Ekpa was also detained because of this truth. And every one of us is being attacked. In our various platforms, in so many places where we are, they attack us because of this truth. And I ask you, who is lying? Who is that doesn't want us to speak? Who is that is afraid and scared of the truth? Ask yourself before we go into the Janjaweed and the Nigerian government. You yourself, that is a Biafran, are you sure you are standing on the truth? Are you sure that that thing you are believing is the truth? Are you sure that that thing you are supporting is truth? It's a very tough question that we must answer. We must answer that question. Who is standing on the truth? Have you taken time to ask yourself? Who is standing on the truth? Who is the propagandist? Who is lying? We are facing a terrible time as Biafrans. Attack is coming from right, left, and center. When you speak, they call you a saboteur. Your own brothers and sisters call you a saboteur. And when you speak, the Janja will look at you, they call you a terrorist. The propaganda is so much that if you do not control your emotion, if you're in the media, you might be tempted to run away and run in. But because many of us have been called, because we know what we want, because we know the battle we are up against, that is why we are not moved. No matter their propaganda, no matter their blackmail, no matter their lies, we continue to stand our ground and say things the way they are. It does not matter what they say, it doesn't matter what they believe. We continue to stand our ground. And we will continue to stand our ground. Anytime, any day. My fellow Biafrans, a lot is happening in Biafra land today. The attack against our people has intensified. The Biafran Liberation Army is facing a situation of war as we speak. War is going on in Biafra land. Are we going to keep silent and pretend that all is well? No. Places are deserted. Everywhere is empty. This evening, I want every one of us to sit back and ask ourselves questions. Who is telling the truth and who is lying? Some of us, we get angry when we call for defense of Biafran land. People hate you for no just cause, for no reason. We are facing an array of enemies. That is what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu said, from all angles, including from people you are fighting for. It is heartbreaking. But I bet you the truth will always win. The truth will always win, no matter the propaganda, no matter the blackmail, no matter the attack they bring to us, the truth will always win. They attack us, Biafran people, in different places. Genuine Biafrans. Once you are genuine, expect attack. Attack from the Janjaweed, attack from your fellow Biafrans. Once you're genuine, don't be discouraged when they call you a saboteur. It is a badge of honor. If they never call you a saboteur, you never started. You have not yet started. But the most important is that do not change your thought because of them. Don't change your belief and don't change what you are doing. Continue to do your own work to the best of your knowledge. Continue to exercise your strength. Continue to give your best in everything you do. No matter how they attack you, no matter their propaganda, continue to give your best at all times. At the end of the day, the end will justify the means. The Biafran people must be free. It doesn't matter how long it takes. We will be free from the captivity, and the freedom is coming very, very fast and close. Do not be discouraged. No matter what you hear, no matter what you see, do not be discouraged. Continue to stand your ground, continue to be strong, continue to support those who are in the front line fighting. Do not pay attention to the propaganda of the Janjaweed. Self-determination is your right. Self-determination is lawful. Self-determination is approved by international law, by African peoples and human rights law. Even Nigerian law itself accepts self-determination. But when it comes to Biafra, they demonize it. They call it terrorism. They call you separatist. They give you different kinds of names just to make sure they discourage you from being who you are supposed to be. But I bet you, as long as you continue to stand your ground and do what you have to do, victory will be yours. We shall be victorious. No matter what happens, we are going to be victorious. Never you run away. Never you shy away from your responsibility. Don't allow the lies, the propaganda to make you change your mind. No, we will never change. Instead of you to change or become weak, become stronger. Instead of you to be weak, I want you to see reason why you have to be stronger. When they think you are going to be weak, show them that you know what you are doing. That is how we can be able to overcome them. The enemies we are fighting are coming from all angles, from east, west, north, and south. And I bet you they will never, ever overpower us. Victory is very close. The only advice I have to give you that is a Biafran, stay away from propaganda. We know that propaganda is an instrument of war, but propaganda against yourself, propaganda that works against you, stay away from it. Stay away from propaganda. Only truth can get us Biafra, not lie, not propaganda, not bitterness, not fighting each other. Today we see the kind of propaganda they are pushing against us. Asere Dokobo is in the front line today of attacking the Igbos. Asere Dokobo has volunteered himself and go and check all his program he's making. Is propaganda and blackmail of the Igbo race. Wherever there is chaos, Asere Dokobo will say it is the Igbos. Wherever there is trouble, Asere Dokobo will say, look at something happened in the River State, where the person that was murdered is not even a Biafran. The person that murdered the person is not a Biafran. Has nothing to do with us. Asere Dokobo come online and begin to push a different narrative that we are the one that is involved. What does he want to achieve? What does he want to achieve? To create chaos, to create enmity, to create trouble, to make people see us as evil. So if you want to attack or you want to have a job to do, Focus on Asere Dokubo and his lies. If there's any way you can attack it and do what you can do to stop it, go ahead. Those are the propagandists that we pay by the government. They are under government payroll. Look at Ijele. Ijele in Biafra land, openly, Koro, he's not hiding it with camera. They gave him military to go and fight against us. The same way they gave Asere Dokubo free hand to go and fight us. We cannot keep silent. Wherever you are as a Biafran, if you know what you will do to see that we win this battle, go ahead and do it. If you know what you will do for us to defend our land, go and do it. Don't wait for anybody. Don't wait for me. I'm not going to wait for you. Every one of us should get to work. We must fight this battle and we must win it, no matter what happens. No matter the circumstance, we must win this battle. This is a battle that we must win. So, my fellow Biafrans, while we're in the weekend preparing, whatever you are doing, always have in mind that you have to be security conscious, more especially people in Biafra land. If you are living outside, you have to try as much as possible to reach out to your family and tell them to be security conscious. A lot is going on, and more is going to happen. So every one of us must be very careful in what we do. We must be very careful in anything that we do because the battle has just started. And for us to win this battle, we must rise up from anywhere we are. We must rise up and fight this battle and fight it earnestly. So, my fellow Biafrans, in this evening, as we always do, we are going to go into the conventional media to bring out the information we have in the conventional media. You know, a lot is happening. And as those things are happening, we are following closely. We will not allow any information to fly away from us. We will continue to follow them closely to expose the atrocities they commit and all their lies. Wherever there is a lie, we will expose it. Wherever there is a blackmail, we will expose it. We cannot allow them to get away with all their lies, propaganda, and blackmail. So that is why we go to their media to listen to what they have to say. And this evening, we are going to go to their media and show you what they have during the week so that we can be able to dissect them. That is what we do. It's part of our duty because we cannot keep silent and allow them to continue to push propaganda against us. How do you know that they are pushing propaganda? You can only know that they are pushing propaganda by going online to listen to them. Because we know some of us don't have that time to go and listen to them. So those of us in the media, we go to their media, we go there and listen to them. And then we bring it to Biafran people to hear what is happening. So this evening, we are going to listen and hear what is going on throughout the whole week over there.
For the week that was, let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week. We're starting here in Nigeria as President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday signed the Electoral Act 2022 repeal and reenactment bill of 2026 into law, marking a significant update to Nigeria's electoral framework just over a year ahead of the 2027 general election. Now, the new legislation, which repeals and reenacts the 2022 Electoral Act key amendments, follows weeks of intense debates, emergency sessions, and divisions in the National Assembly. The bill was passed by both the Senate and House of Representatives in mid-February 2026 after harmonizing differing versions, particularly around result transmission methods and election timelines. But it seems that we do have a new Electoral Act of 2026 after chaos, unbridled chaos in the Green Chamber this week. And of course, we did also have division in the Senate for the first time. I think in the 10th Assembly, we did see senators have to stand and vote on certain issues, but particularly Section 60, sub 3 of the Electoral Act, which has to do with the electronic transmission of votes, whether it should be mandatory and whether it should happen in real time. Another section which was very contentious, especially in the House of Representatives, was Section 84 of the bill. Now, this section removes the ability of parties to have indirect primaries. It now legislates that parties can only have direct or consensus primaries. Now, of course, what that means is that the Electoral Act is now deciding internal party politics, which our Supreme Court has already previously judged to be within the remit of a party. But, the bill has finally passed. A lot of people were hoping for more from our National Assembly. Of course, there was a lot of pressure on the House of Representatives to hold the fort and stick to the mandatory e-transmission of results in real time from the polling units as they had passed last year in December. But, the pressure on the House of Representatives seemed to be a lot. And a section and a law that was passed by the House very popularly with quite popular support amongst members, with very little, pushback. That was passed all the way last year. Everyone thought it was behind them. They were just waiting for the Senate to pass their own and they would go into conference. And all of a sudden, of course, it was brought back to the floor of the House to be rescinded. That vote to rescind is what people have been talking about. I think people have been talking about it a lot this week. But in particular, when the Speaker of the House, Honorable Tajin Abbas, put it to the floor whether or not it should be rescinded, and we heard the nays much louder than the ayes, and he said the ayes have been forcing, that was the first, time they went into closed session that day. That was the first real protest and disruption we saw, but that was not the last. And of course, it all culminated with members of the opposition walking out of the Green Chamber shouting APC only. I think I took the video there. I'm pretty sure we have that video. But ultimately, we see that if the minority may have their say, but the majority will have their way. But it does, the question is the majority of the National Assembly aligned with the people of Nigeria, or they are aligned with their party? I think the real consequence of that mass exodus we have been seeing over this last 2 years of members of National Assembly leaving the opposition and moving to the APC, I think we saw on the floor of the House this week, because members were whipped across along party lines rather. And earlier I had seen some members of the APC asking the deputy speaker to take it close by close, shouting Section 60 sub 3. However, they were whipped along party lines and the clauses were able to pass. Does this give Nigeria more credible elections? I do not think so. We have now codified the glitch. Does it give the people of Nigeria more confidence? I do not think so. I think it's now up to INEC to give us guidelines that are very prescriptive and very strict. I also think it's on the opposition. The opposition must not act as the public or as the media or as issuers of commentary. If they do feel that certain things should be challenged, and the opposition lawmakers who came out and said party indirect primaries is a party matter, then take it to court and let's see what our judiciary does with this. We have to test the courts. We cannot just lose faith in the whole system and sit back and be challenged. I think we need everyone in our democracy to invest in it and to test it at the different levels. Of course, we see what's going on in America now. Even the US Supreme Court has hit Donald Trump, but that's what it means at the end of the day. Institutions matter and our Supreme Court matters.
Absolutely. I mean, what a week, a week of drama and controversies, but of course, it eventually came to a head with the passing of the bill into law by the president. A lot of people have said that in record time, the president just sentenced the bill and everything. And my point was, for how long were they expecting that the president would wait, before he signs, the bill into law? It's now a law, Nigeria's Electoral Act 2026, and that's what we will have to, deal with, fortunately or unfortunately. Yes, the law has been passed. It would look as if the lawmakers and the executive are saying, let's move on, we have a new law. But of course, we know chaos around it that will not stop. And that's what matters. The parliament of the people is the strongest parliament anywhere in the world, and you can't stop people from talking, from commenting, from debating what what they perceive to be dodgy in terms of a few of the clauses there, about 150 clauses in the act. Of course, one stands out, clause 60 sub 3, and of course, like you also referenced, clause 80, dabble into internal affairs of political parties. But I don't think that we should write Nigeria off. I don't think that, in spite of the issues that many people may have against some clauses, particularly 63 in the act, I think that we should give INEC a chance. And today, for example, will be a demonstration of what INEC under Professor Josh Amubiton can do in Abuja in particular, because a lot of attention will be on the municipal, local government elections in Abuja, and of course to some extent in Rivers State and in Kanu. Elections are not just about what happened on that day. I believe that there are about 3 other layers that people will need to show that, yes, we may have issues with some aspect of the law that has been passed, but then there are 3 other layers. One will be for people to come out and mask themselves when there is heavy, overwhelming people trooping out to exercise their franchise. The chances of rigging or manipulations tend to reduce, and that's an important thing, which of course we must see. I heard Minister Wiki saying that to Abuja residents yesterday in his address to the people. That's what everybody of concern should say to Nigerians, whether it's in January or February or March next year when the general elections will hold. Do come out and exercise your franchise, stay and ensure that the votes count. But of course, there are 2 other layers, that are also important. What INEC does, beyond the fact that people come out, is also important. They have to implement the law, and they know what they are dealing with. Again, it is what we see today that will give an indication of what INEC or Professor Amiguito will be able to do. And I'm hoping, I'm really seriously hoping that there won't be any hanky-panky. He has promised that there won't be, and that they will do that, which is right. The other part, of course, will also be that part of the judiciary, because at the end of the day, we are saddled with not so enviable reality that it is the courts that will ultimately validate our elections. We saw it in 2023, we've seen it, countless times. I'm hoping that with a good number of people trooping out, and not just today because of the local government election, there are a couple of other off-season elections that are coming, but also, more importantly, for the general elections and next year, it will be important to see that people troop out and see what INEC does. And then, if it has to go ultimately to the judiciary, part of the debate and the discussion should be that integrity will not be compromised. Free, fair, and credible elections, but then it doesn't end on election day. What INEC does, what the people do when they troop out to vote, and of course what the judiciary will do. A good number of people, of course, are not satisfied with aspects of the law that has been passed, but it has become a law, and that's what we have to deal with. Now that it has become a law, I think that what people should do is to work their way around it, come out, vote en masse. The arguments for and against are there. And people are saying, yes, Senate says that what has been harmonized shows that it is mandatory that the results will be electronically transmitted. But there's a caveat. This is a caveat that's the problem. Because they suspect that in areas where those things might not work, give room for human intervention before we see I don't think that is an impossible thing to do. What is lacking and why people are suspicious is the sincerity of purpose, on the part of those who have amended this law. But then, like I said, it isn't the lawmakers that will go out to the field and deal with the situation. It is INEC, and we will see a demonstration of what they are capable of today in Abuja, in Rivers, and in Kano.
I think for me, what really stands out is the fact that for me, is now seen as the primary source of information. We've codified that so that means that whatever you upload on IRF is secondary. It does not matter. It's a viewing portal, and we've said that that's what it is. So,
all right.
It's going to never see.
Even interesting, because what it means is that elections will happen, if from what the speaker may have to say, most likely happen, presidential and national assembly, in less than 1 year from today, and that's an interesting thing to look forward to. All right, we move on. The United States has imposed sanctions on 8 Nigerians over alleged ties to terrorist organizations, including Boko Haram and Islamic State of Iraq in the Levant, as well as cybercrime-related offenses. The sanctions were announced in the February 10th publication by the United States Department of the Treasury through its Office of Foreign Assets Control. The action was contained in a 3,000-page update of the specially designated nationals and blocked persons list, a reference document detailing individuals and entities subject to U.S. sanctions. According to OFAC, the list provides formal notice to persons whose property and interest in property are blocked under U.S. law as part of counterterrorism and other sanctions programs. And that was a development, from the United States. About 8 names, in the first instance, was contained in the list that the American government, the Department of Treasury released, which wasn't a particularly new thing, given that in 2022, they did the same thing. About 6 Nigerians who are said to be connected to terror financing or being sympathetic to terrorism, particularly those who were identified to be doing a lot of things in the United Arab Emirates. But now, more names are coming, and the American government is saying that this is how we will deal with it, in terms of your property, in terms of not granting you access to Nigeria, which is a welcome development to many Nigerians, that, whether the names are 8 or 2 or 10, in the hope that more will come, and people are saying that there must be consequences for bad behavior. The part of it that many people will also be interested in will be that what is the Nigerian government doing when American government identifies and lists certain names to say that we know for a fact that these people are involved in acts suspected to be terrorism. If they are Nigerians, particularly those that are in this country, what therefore should we do? What should the security agencies do? Are they not supposed to be investigated first and then tried where necessary? It shouldn't end with the inability to be able to go to the United States and then forfeiting assets, property, etc. in the US. Those are the questions that we germinate. That after America has done it, even if we have issues with certain names, and we do, there are 1 or 2 individuals and entities who are saying that no, this is not acceptable to us. But again, what will the Nigerian government do? How will you view those that the American government has designated as terror financiers? Those are important questions to raise so that it can serve as deterrent to others who might be close-end, still supporting terror acts.
Yeah, so this list I think is very important. So we have here Sally Adamu, who is said to be responsible for setting up that Boko Haram funding cell in the UAE in 2022. We're seeing members of the Al-Barnawi family who are said to be part of Boko Haram leadership. And we're also seeing a man who's said to be partaking in cyber crimes in America and alleged criminal activity. This is the type of information I think that we need. We need more information detailing people, the roles they are playing, and of course who they are, where they are, and what they are doing. I think too often in Nigeria we don't speak to the specifics of who these people are and what their roles are. When you look at other terror networks, whether it's the financiers, whether it's those that are helping to train these people, whether it's those that are giving them safety and places to hide. These are the specifics we need, and I do appreciate that what we have seen from the US here is some type of specificity when it comes to the people who are being sanctioned. However, going beyond that, it is also something that we need to watch carefully. As you said, as we rightfully pointed out, Mr. Steve, what is the Nigerian government doing, and where are these people? Are they Nigerian? Are they in? Sorry, are they in Nigeria right now? Do we know their location? Very often now we are seeing more terror attacks spread towards the southwest of Nigeria, spread towards the Atlantic Ocean, and we also have to question our government on this. We were talking about what happened in Borgu just last weekend. Of course, Borgu Game Reserve is part of the Kainji National Forest. It's the same Kainji National Forest that we saw terrorists go to attack Kwara State from countless times, right? We have about 10% of our land in Nigeria is dedicated to this national forest, and we have been now it has changed, and we see people, entrench themselves, and we have to ask if our government is doing enough to prevent this cancer from spreading, from metastasizing and growing, because it's definitely a dangerous situation, and they do need to be tactical. At least now, I would hope, as there are more U.S. Soldiers in Nigeria, hope that intelligence sharing also involves identification of more people like the 8 here who need to be sanctioned and possibly tried and put in prison. Now let's move on to the next story, where at least 37 miners have died after reportedly being exposed to carbon monoxide while working at an underground mining site in Zura, Owasin local government area of Plateau State. Eyewitnesses say the incident occurred in the early hours of Tuesday as the miners were extracting the zinc. During the operation, toxic gas reportedly filled the mining pit, which the victims inhaled. Most of the victims were young men between the ages of 20 and 35 who had been engaged in routine mining operations at the time of the incident. 25 other miners who survived the exposure were taken to a nearby health facility for medical attention. Confirming the incident, the executive chairman of Wase local government area, Hamisu Anani, stated that the mining site has been secured to prevent further casualties and to enable investigators to determine the exact cause of the gas leak. Honestly, this is a tragedy, but whether or not it is a preventable tragedy is something that we are only going to find out as investigations continue. I don't believe that our mining sites, whether those that are legal or illegal, are known for their safety practices and precautions in Nigeria. And honestly, it is getting overwhelming to have to hammer on the sanctity of life in Nigeria. We need to talk about the sanctity of life. I wonder if these people had insurance, how their families would be taken care of, and if there was negligence. Of course, nobody spoke about insurance. Nobody.
Yeah. Down. I mean, it's not the first time that we did that. Yes. Last year there was a similar thing, somewhere in Zamfara or something. I mean, the issue of safety around our mining sites, it's a concern, and we keep losing young men, to these sort of accidents. But
and we act like that as though the accident ends where it occurs, as though it ends with the death of these people. What happens to the investigation? What happens to insurance? What happens to better practices or best practices? To guide against it happening in the future. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome and keep talking about the fact that we're losing our young men. These are young men who are doing good work. We're losing our young men to so many different things in this country, especially in a state like Plateau. We also have to be very intentional and proactive to prevent this type of thing from happening again. I asked about insurance, and I know for some people probably laugh at it, but it's not funny. There are people with families.
The things we take for granted in this country, they're alarming.
It is very alarming for me. So I hope their family. I hope God comforts their families in this horrible, terrible time. But I also hope that if there is negligence, those who are responsible will be held responsible. And I also hope that we start having better practices and insurance and proper workplace protections for all well-meaning Nigerians.
The U.S. civil rights icon, Jesse Jackson, has died at age 84. His family said Tuesday, marking the passing of one of the most influential figures in America's fight for racial and social justice. Jackson, a Baptist minister, and key associate of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., rose to national prominence during the civil rights movement and went on to twice seek the Democratic presidential nomination in the 1980s, breaking barriers for black candidates in the US politics. The Jackson family described him as a servant leader who the oppressed and voiceless around the world. Over more than 5 decades, he founded and led organizations such as Operation Push and the Rainbow Push Coalition, advocating for economic empowerment, voting rights, and equality. Jackson's legacy includes inspiring generations of activists and shaping debates on civil rights, economic justice, and political inclusion in the United States. I mean, what a loss Adesua, Jesse Jackson, who defined what the involvement, shall we say, of African Americans should be in American politics. Many years after Reverend Luther King twice he ran to the president, to get the ticket of the Democratic Party. Of course, he didn't succeed, but of course he created a pathway in some ways for the first African American, President Barack Obama to emerge in 2008. And I recall that evening when that announcement was made, making Barack Obama the first, black president. The tears that Reverend Jesse Jackson shed on that day, and I could imagine what was going through. He said, but here we are at 84. He has done his part. He was a friend to Nigeria in some ways. He was a friend in some ways to Mr. Donald Trump. He was a friend in some ways to many people, and he did play his part. History will be kind to him. History will remember him, kindly. And I hope, of course, that there will be an opportunity. An opportunity was lost with Kamala Harris just more than a year ago. And I see in some polls that are coming out of America that Kamala is still leading in the polls for the potential candidate that the Democratic Party would put forward in 2028. This is all about what Reverend Jesse Jackson did many years ago to say that everybody who's an American deserves to give that office a shot. Will be seen, and I hope that his family will be comforted.
Reverend Jesse Jackson means a lot to me. He means a lot to me. He's from South Carolina. I went to school in North Carolina. Yes, when he ran for president in 1984, there was no black governors and only one black senator since Reconstruction. To have the wherewithal and the mind to seek the impossible and know that you might not reach it, but that you set the path and lead the way for others. And to see that dream realized in your lifetime in the election of President Barack Obama is something that's very personal to me, because I do think that what Jesse Jackson was ultimately was a servant leader, was a man who believed in bridges, a man who believed in the dignity of black people and black women, a man who believed in also the dignity of black people, not just in America. He did not look inwards, he looked outwards. He looked at the continent. He came here, he made relationships with people like, Mandela, like Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I think Jesse Jackson, for me, was a bridge to that past and a reminder that it was not so far long ago that black people didn't have the right to go into schools, as Ruby Bridges is still alive. It's not so long ago that Martin Luther King was killed, as we can see, or that Malcolm X was killed, as we can see. Reverend Jesse Jackson dying, I think maybe makes a lot of people realize how recent it was that black people were not allowed to vote. Simple vote. How recent it was that black people were not allowed to live in houses. And these wins, these civil rights wins, were hard fought. People died to win these small things. And so when they are getting peeled back in America, whether it's in small ways or in large ways, I think this is a reminder that you have to stay vigilant and that you have to believe in what seems like the unbelievable. For Jesse Jackson to believe that a black man could be president of America when not a single state and putting a black man as the governor. No, it shows a sense of purpose, and for him to be able to cross over, to build support, to build, support across different racial groups and across different socio-economic groups. I think that this is the type of servant leadership, this is the type of visionary leadership that as Nigerians should inspire us. As a woman, it inspires me. We still have not had a female governor in Nigeria that's been elected and sworn in. We have caveats with the repeat governor, deputy, and but I think it should inspire people. If it is the congresses, I think, across the country this week, it begins from the Congress, right? It begins from the party level. And that's why when we talk about the Electoral Act with Section 84,
we must continue to go further to other issues. For Nigeria, we know everything about the Zoological Republic is wrong. And when you see, when they talked about the insecurity, even with the presence of the United States, more insecurity is happening every single day. Even with the presence of the United States, these terrorists are not stopping. They are not giving up. They continue to push different kinds of agenda, different kinds of rubbish, different kinds of issues is what they are pushing forward. So the earlier you understand that and know that nothing good is going to come out of this zoo, be better for all of us. So we must continue to follow.
We'll take a look at people's opinion on some issues. I am Luisa Sime. What began as reports of a tense airport encounter with the former governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, has now evolved into a broader legal and institutional confrontation. The former governor was initially invited over his allegations linked to phone tapping involving the office of the National Security Advisor. He has now been arrested and formally brought into the legal process after his recent investigation by federal authorities. For many Nigerians, the pattern feels familiar: dramatic political clashes, sharp public exchanges, and intense media scrutiny, sometimes followed by quiet recalibration. So the central question is this a defining institutional test for Nigeria's democracy, or another episode of elite contests amplified in the media space? Today we move beyond the noise and examine the legal implications, the security dimensions, and the political calculations that shape public perception. We're heading for a short break, but stay with us because in a brief moment I will have the pleasure of introducing my distinguished guests. Inebihe Effiong, Dr. Dixon Osaje, and Achike Judy. Perspectives will return in just a moment. Welcome back to Perspectives on Rise News. It's now time to introduce my guests on the show today, including Inebihe Effiong, a lawyer and public affairs analyst who has built up an impressive profile as an advocate of human and legal rights. In the course of his career, Inebihe has handled Joining us too for this topic is Dr. Dixon Osaige, the Managing Director and CEO of Deep Breeze Protection Services Limited, an internationally certified security and counter-terrorism expert who offers insight on terrorism, security management, and global threats. And last but certainly not the least is Chude Achike, the National Secretary of Nigerian Union of Journalists. He's a writer, novelist, renowned civil society figure, media practitioner, and public affairs analyst. Today will be joining us soon during the course of the program. But anyway, for two of you here, it's a delight to have both of you. Now, of course, let me start with you, the security experts. If, as according to National El-Rufai, the NSA's phone, National Security Advisor's phone, was tapped into, what does this reveal about Nigeria's national security, and how could hostile actors take advantage of this?
Thank you very much. I think it was a shocker, and I was very amazed when they personally claimed that the National Security Advisor phone has been tapped. And I see that as an assault on our national security. It's not about bravado, it's not about his person, it's about the Office of the National Security Advisor that coordinates strategic intelligence, counter-terrorism management, and as well coordinates intelligence drives between the Army, Navy, Air Force, and as well the DSS and other security agents. So if we have the person of Malam Nasser El-Rufai claiming that he also tapped the phone of the National Security Advisor, and when he was asked, he said,
they listened.
Yes, they listened, yeah.
It's a person.
Yeah, it's a partnership, yeah. So now they listened to his conversation, and when he was asked, he said, well, the National Security Advisor, the government also, listen to people's conversation. I said that was okay. I think that's a disturbing situation because this should never happen. And as a country, Nigeria, where we have been faced with security issues, terrorism issues, and a lot of incidents all across board from our country, and we have somebody claiming that the Office of the National Security Advisor's communication system is being tapped. The communication security system of the National Security Advisor needs to be reviewed as well. An assessment needs to be carried out, and the InfoSec also needs to be carried out because such statement is not good for the development of our great country, because I see that as an assault on our strategic security management in this great country. So it's a regrettable situation.
But what about what he also said that national security, the security advisor there and their team also tap into people's phones? Are they allowed to do that? Or can it be done?
Yeah, it can be done. It's through legal means, But I tell you that whatever the situation is, the survival of Nigeria is taken as the topmost priority. If there's anything that will bring down this great nation, there's what we call speed and momentum. You can act with speed and momentum to ensure that you cut off that threat with the great country of Nigeria. So if this man claimed that the government also listening to the conversation, perhaps maybe they're trying to carry out tracking assessment, or maybe they're trying to see if there's anyone trying to carry out an attack against the Nigerian state. They will have this happening on our own security agents. I tell you, security issues is really disturbing.
That actors exploit such.
Yes, they can exploit it because, first of all, let's take the Nigerian military. Yes, for example, the Nigerian military, sometimes you carry an attack against this terrorist group, and sometimes got intelligence and says, okay, we're going to advance, to capture one or two elements. And if most of this hostile, because there's what we call surveillance and counter-surveillance. Hostile surveillance simply implies that you carry out an assessment or communication, assessment of your enemy so that you'll be able to take out your enemy at any given situation. But hostile guys now, if this is true, I tell you Nigeria is not safe, because that implies that from the strategic level, because we have to look at the COG center of gravity now, from the strategic level, that implies that our communication system is not safe. And these hostile guys, when they capitalize on that, they'll be able to determine what the Nigerian government is about to do in the area of security management, terrorism management, and counter-terrorism. And it's also going to put us in the negative light,
Okay. Let's talk about the legal aspects of this. If someone claims they access these communications, where does Nigerian law draw the line between whistleblowing and criminal exposure?
Thank you for having me. The United States, they have a law called the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, and they also have what they call Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act. Now, under the FISA regime in the US, before the government set the Federal Bureau of Investigation or other agencies of the US government can lawfully access the communications of Americans or anybody in the US, they have to go before a judge ordinarily, file an expert application before a judge. The judge will scrutinize the basis for having access to this such communication and decide whether to give permission or not. In fact, in the US, such judges are specifically designated for such purpose. I'm saying that based on the comment of my colleague who has said that the government ordinarily can access the communication of citizens. No. No. Legally. No. Well, legally, yes, but what is the process? If you look at Section 37 of the Constitution, it says that the privacy of citizens, of every person, including their homes, telephone conversation, and telegraphic communication, is hereby guaranteed and protected.
What is their advantage?
Yes, I'm saying that under the enabling legal framework, including the Terrorism Prevention Act, the Nigerian Communications Act, the Cyber Crimes Prohibition Act, and other relevant legislative framework laws. There are circumstances in which the government may, I use the word may, be allowed to intercept communications in the interest of national security. But what we have seen,
automatic though.
What we have seen, and the reason why I'm starting on that video before I speak directly to the question. What we seem to see in Nigeria is that more often than not, these things are done arbitrarily, without any recourse to due process, without any recourse to any legal review or by a judge. Now, when you have that kind of climate where this kind of power of the government can even be deployed to target opposition figures, to target activists, you begin to wonder the legitimacy of such actions. So I agree with you that the comment of El-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, is unfortunate. It should not be encouraged. I do not agree with him that the phone of the NSA should be monitored, or the phone of any other person for that matter. So I deprecate that if actually that is correct. However, on the issue of whistleblowing and all that, the point is clear. If there is a basis to infer that a communication is taking place that can lead to security of life or that can prevent act of terrorism, then the government may want to explore legal means to have access to such communication. So within the legal framework, our laws is not very clear on circumstances in which the government can do that. If you look at the Cyber Crimes Act, for example, there is no provision, express provision of the Act that enables the government to monitor communications of Nigerians.
But shouldn't there be one like that? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to prevent crime.
That is what I'm saying. Because if yes, it is true that rights are not absolute. The right to privacy is not absolute. But what the Constitution says, what section 37 of the Constitution says, is that any derogation, any form of derogation, by that I mean departure from the rights guaranteed by the Constitution, has to be in a manner prescribed by law. And not only by law, but that law has to be one that is reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. Reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. Now, Nigeria has some of these laws that I have mentioned. But when you examine those laws, you now ask the question, does it empower government to intercept communications of Nigerians? If the government really wants to fight terrorism, what they are supposed to do is that if you believe that some communications, go before a judge, file an it can be heard in chambers. It doesn't have to even be heard in the open court. A judge can hear it in chambers. So I am saying that based on my understanding and based on my knowledge of this subject, I do not believe that in most cases that due process is followed at all. So, and let me also tell you, a few days ago, Premium Times, credible Nigerian media organization, undertook an investigation that revealed that even state governors have surveillance tools. Akwa Ibom, my home state, is one of those states that was mentioned, that was indicted, I use the word indicted, for purchasing equipment for that purpose. Not necessarily for security of the citizens, but for governors and other actors to monitor the activities of their opponents. Yes, which is very reckless. So the National Security Advisor has the responsibility to come out to tell Nigerians the legal framework that they have that allows these kind of things to happen. Now, regarding the El-Rufai comment, it is good. It's going to be arraigned on Wednesday. It is left to be seen the ramifications that this trial is going to take. Whether the government truly wants to prosecute it, because I have taken a position as a Nigerian that I do not believe that the federal government sincerely wants to prosecute El-Rufai. And I say that because there are things I feel, there are things that by my estimation ought to have been addressed before they took him to court. Like what? They should have asked him questions. They should have asked him questions. Who were the people? Who are the persons that told you? The person that told you?
Are you sure that's not what they're going to ask him now that he's in their custody?
After filing charge.
No, but is it not enough to even charge him? The fact that he even made that statement in the first place?
It is left for the court to decide. My own assessment, go and listen to what he said. He's an intelligent person. I don't like his politics. I don't like his human rights record. El-Rufai, to his credit, he's a very brilliant person.
That's notwithstanding.
I am saying that in his comments on this station, Arise News, he said someone
yes, and he listens
and told me. He said we listen.
Yes.
We. Yes. Didn't say I. He said we, which possibly includes him. How do they listen? He said that when they. So I am saying that there's a cloud of uncertainty regarding what he said, and how to resolve that is to undertake investigation, looking at the speed by which this took place. It is doubtful whether really the government really wants to investigate this man or really wants to because they first have to admit that indeed the NSS phone was tagged. I'm not sure they are willing to do that.
No, but his arrest them arresting doesn't mean that the NSS is agreeing that the phone was tagged.
do you understand my friend who is the strike analyst? If you understand it,
I don't think they are openly agreeing that yes, El-Rufai is correct.
I will slightly take a departure from what Inspirational talks about because it bridge between security and law. You understand? One thing about any given nation is survival. After the 9/11 attack during President George Bush, the United States of America came up with the Patriot Act, and that Patriot Act gives room for wiretapping. What they did was that they started going after this terrorist group because you can't tell me that you want to go to the court and say, hey, we want to go and check this terrorist group, we want to wiretap this terrorist group, or we want to access their phone. No. So that Patriot Act simply granted the United States government the privilege and opportunity, to wiretap terrorist groups and ensure that they follow them up to date. And that was how Osama bin Laden was tracked and eliminated. Because what they did was that all effort put in place to trace him prove abortive. What do you usually do? It goes to his email. Because he knew that they are tapping him. He goes to his email, draft a message for his people, just send the password to them. And what those people do is that they will go and access the email and go to the ad box. To go to the draft. When you want to send an email and you abandon it, you can go back to the email, check the draft, and you pick up that email and you send it. So these terrorists, what they're doing is that they don't know how to communicate. Osama bin Laden was passing message through his draft. He will just send an email, and that email won't transmit it because if you transmit it, I think these United States guys will, intercept it. So we just leave it in the draft and send the password to his own email. Somebody will access the email and go to the draft and read the message. Then they carry out attack. So the Patriot Act 2011 that was, established by the United States, granted the United States force the opportunity and privilege to wiretap, criminal elements that poses threat to the survival of the state. So for us, we're talking about wiretapping criminal elements. And I strongly believe, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a lawyer.
I would have thought it would have been automatic.
For me, I strongly believe as a country, the survival of Nigeria comes first before any unity. Because if someone is about to attack this country and you say, you need to rush to the court to get clearance of the judge before you prevent that issue, Nigeria will be one time. So I think the NSA office has that right for me to carry out such act. If only we have a law that we can pass a law on that aspect.
Actually, in the house now, but let me just finish with this one because it's a bit, the area is still blurred. So are you not, is it not automatically in the rule, in the law that NSAs, security agencies, automatically have the right to tap into the phone of terrorists and bandits and...
No. We have to be careful.
So you have to wait for them to strike.
I am saying, I want to be understood. Section 37 of the Constitution, the good norm of this country, I quoted it expressly. It says the privacy of citizens, including their telephone conversations and telegraphic communications, is hereby guaranteed and protected. I am saying that if you want to depart from that right, it has to be in a manner prescribed by reasonably just. So if what we are saying here is terrible, why are the kidnappers not being tracked? Why is it that terrorists are on TikTok taunting Nigerians and the government is not able to intercept?
But why not? Why? How come they do that?
I am asking, how come that the government has this capacity, yet the security is so prevalent? Till date, it speaks to something that either the government
should not be addressed.
Why have they not been addressed?
Okay,
that is what I'm saying.
Why hasn't it been addressed?
Why has it not been addressed? should the communication of the terrorists be monitored? Yes.
Yes.
The first question is, who is a terrorist?
But there's some known terrorists. They're all over.
So there has to be a bridge between the rights of the people and national security, because eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. When you give government absolute power, what they will most likely do in a country like ours that is young and weak is that they will not only exploit it, they will abuse it. And we have seen examples that it has been abused.
So we're talking about known terrorists.
Yes, I'm telling you, those non-terrorists in Nigeria, I agree with you, but those non-terrorists, how come that they are almost having a free hand?
Because from what you're saying, their phones cannot be tapped.
Unless that's not what the government is saying. I am saying that under the law, and if you say that there are terrorists that are communicating, which doesn't take 24 hours to file an expert application, to go before a judge and say, oh, we believe that there are people within this locality. And if they are already proscribed as terrorists under the Terrorism Prevention Act, that is a different matter.
So it only takes 24 hours to get that.
No, I'm saying it doesn't take it. Within 24 hours, they can do it. I mean, look at how quickly they file a charge against El-Rufai. And on Wednesday, it's going to be arraigned. The legal system has allowances that the government can explore. I am saying, and I want to be again be understood clearly, that if they are, for example, Boko Haram is prescribed, is a terrorist organization.
Yes.
Of course, within the context of the Terrorism Prevention Act, they cannot be laying claims to rights under Article Chapter 4 of the Constitution. Right? The government got IPOC prescribed. Right? If you say an organization or an entity or a group of persons are engaged in terrorist activities, for you to even say that they are terrorists within the context of an organization, you have to get an order of court to make that prescription. We must not allow our cherished rights as Nigerians to be taken away by government at will. Otherwise, violations will continue. And if the government is truly honest about this conversation, they should come out and tell Nigerians why terrorists are having a free hand. Look at what is happening in Kwara Road. There's a local government now where teachers have refused to resume because the school principal was kidnapped. As I speak to you, many parts of the country, people have run away from their communities, they are in IDP camps.
Yeah.
Why is it that the Nigerian government, despite that some of these groups have been prescribed, they are not able to bring them to justice?
And why can't they
It is when you go on social media and say something bad against Tinubu, suddenly SSS will begin to look for you. It is when you abuse politicians. That is when you find the capacity of the Nigerian government, they will trace you. Like the gentleman who tweeted something, they said he was supporting coup on X, even with an account that was not ordinarily traceable. They were able to locate him. Why is it that the government in Nigeria is strong with critics and opposition, and then weak with terrorists? It means that either the government is supporting the terrorism, or the government simply is so inefficient to fight terrorism. Whichever way it is, the government is complicit.
Okay, we're going on a short break now, right now, and then we'll be right back. So don't go anywhere. Get to come up to the privacy and see you soon.
Worthy people, are they trustworthy people? Are they people that the public has a lot of regards for? You know, are they people that we think are motivated always primarily by self-interest? And so, if we're able to, have a proper, description or idea of who these people are, we could perhaps have an idea about what their motivations are. You are talking about politicians, especially, El-Rufai is a politician, and politicians always gravitate, just like most human beings, towards, preserving their interest. So obviously he fell out with the ruling party, was a staunch member of the ruling party, a major player, in the politics of the country, especially within the ruling party. But he's also somebody, if you are talking of El-Rufai now, he's also somebody that has switched their loyalty from time to time. He, we are told, was brought into the political limelight by Atiku, but fell out with Atiku, after some time. He had new bedfellows, had new friends, and gravitated towards them. And then when it appeared that he had fallen out of favor, obviously he found new friends, new bedfellows. And again, a lot of people allude to the fact that it was because he was not giving, isolated or not in the running or in the consideration for appointment by the time APC achieved victory in 2023, and that everything that we see today is a manifestation of whatever grudge he has against the party and perhaps against the president. These are speculations, only he can answer at this. But again, that is not to say that even people who are aggrieved sometimes do not speak the truth. So we don't know. But I think one thing I would say again, politicians do strange things or normal things when it comes to politics. This is an election period. We know we are slowly moving towards 2027 for the general election. And so any pound of flesh you can exact on your political opponent, anything that will chip away at their armor, and then it is a fair game. It is fair game. I don't forget. I think it was Fayemi, former governor for Osho State, after the APC had come to power, and people were talking about challenging them on the promises that they had made to the Nigerian people in terms of energy and so many other things. And he said openly that all of these things he alluded to the fact that they were lies and that they were used as political cudgel to beat their political opponent to gain electoral victory. So for all you know, we don't know what is motivating El-Rufai, but he is, when it comes to politics, he is also very Machiavellian in his disposition to politics in this country. The end justifies the means, and that is not to exonerate the NSA from the accusations that he has made against him, but the accusations. And in law they say he who alleges must prove. So when you make some of these allegations, and you must prove, and don't forget, especially when it comes to the issue of eavesdropping on the phone conversations of the NSA, it has been proven sometimes that when you want publicity, you go and ask some of the terrorists who have laid claim to bombings that they did not actually participate in. The fact that a group, maybe a terrorist activity takes place and the bombing has taken place, and a group comes out to claim responsibility for that bombing, doesn't mean that they were actually the group that took responsibility. So it's only subject to investigation. And so he says they listen to the National Security Advisor and the rest. That is not to say that that is not an indication that they actually did. It is left for the security agencies. I think the DSS is looking into it to see whether it is actually true. Oftentimes, when you have serial killers, especially in those countries that have death data, when somebody has committed a crime, there are all manners of crank calls from different people who tell you that they are the ones that committed the crime. Some even go to the police to say that they are the ones that committed the crime. But when they are investigated, when they are asked questions, the police realize that they do not even have the basic knowledge about what happened during the crime itself. So it's for the authorities to investigate that, and then we'll see how it goes.
Response. We'll get back to you. Let me get to Osaji in the house. What practical steps, considering this whole controversy about leakage and no leakages of tape, what practical steps can you just take to reassure the public of that their security is tight without compromising operations?
Fantastic.
How do they send that message across that we can build our trust in them?
Yes, fantastic question. Sometimes when we look at the media space, you discover that most intelligence communication are being shown on many platforms. You discover that maybe in the police is transmitting a signal. You see it on social platform, and they sometimes use WhatsApp to transmit information that is just detrimental to the survival of Nigeria. So for me, I think it's a holistic review of our communication system. The present chief of army staff, General Shaibu, we both served in 245 Breaking Battalion, and we were both in Operation Harmony 4, Bakassi Peninsula in the 90s. During that operation, whenever we are communicating, even the signals, when they are communicating, passing a message to soldiers in the front line, soldiers themselves cannot even decode that signal that's been transmitted from the signal department to we soldiers in the front line. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that we need to start looking at signal intelligence as a key component to the survival of this great country, because you don't transmit information on WhatsApp these days, you don't transmit information on email these very days, because you can be intercepted, and when you're intercepted, your impression can be aborted, and that can risk the life of our officers and men who are advancing towards this criminal element of trying to carry out some form of hostile attack or counter intelligence, insurgency attack against the enemy. So for me, the Nigerian government, like the NSA office, needs to also review its communication security as well to ensure that, hey, we don't communicate or call or place a call towards one or two counterparts or intelligence counterparts because it can be intercepted. They should create a form of, communication network so that no individual, even within its office, can intercept that communication system. Because we're talking about the survival of our country, Nigeria. If such intelligence are being intercepted, it can place Nigeria in a state of risk. And also, Barrister Nebe has laid some fantastic points in the area of law. I think it's right time for the National Security Advisor or the government to start looking at maybe passing a Patriot Act as well, because the Patriot Act is an act that restricts, the rights of some criminal element, most especially terrorists. Because if you pose this threat to the Nigerian people, I don't think the Nigerian government needs to rush to the courts to restrict you from destroying human lives. So a lot of things need to be done from a legal perspective, so that we'll tighten up that angle and ensure that the Office of the National Security Advisor has the power of autonomy to ensure that they can, go into criminal networks and break into their dark networks, get their communication. Because roots, we have what we call the preventive measures. If you don't go before the laws, I tell you, most of these acts will be perpetrated before we, respond. That's why preventive measures comes, proactive measures come, and responsive measures comes to play. So in the area of preventive measures, you go before the laws. That's what security is all about. Go before the laws, because when you go after the laws, security has been defeated. Security has been abused. That is why every person from the National Security Advisors, the Army, the Air Force, the DSS needs to come together and review their communication security system and information security system, so that sensitive information cannot be seen flying around the media space.
Okay, let me get on to thanks for that very deep analysis. Let me get to you, Nibia. When former officials face legal or political pressure similar to measures that they once enforced, because El-Rufai has been accused of using the same draconian methods that is accusing the government of being used against him, of using it against him now. How should institutions ensure consistency rather than perception of vendetta? How do people know that it's selective justice that is being done, and not that the person is being made a victim out of because of what he has said about them?
My attitude to this matter is that every political office holder or politically exposed person who has been entrusted with public resources at one time or the other should be subjected to what I call the ghost of stewardship. The legal system should be designed in a way, should function in a way that when you occupy public office, even while you are occupying that office, it should be possible to hold you to account. The tragedy for our country, quite sadly, is that we have found historically that more often than not, law enforcement activities targeted at politically exposed persons seems to be more vociferous, seems to be more forceful when those individuals are in opposition.
Yes, like political karma.
So it's not supposed to be. The law should be non-partisan. The application of the law also should be blind to political loyalties. But perception is always that if you are the friend of the president, if you're a member or an influential figure in the ruling party, that in some sense, gives you this sense of invincibility, such that you begin to find law enforcement agencies looking weak in bringing people to justice. On the El-Rufai case in particular, I am fully, entirely, unreservedly in support of any legal process that will make him to account for his governance of Kaduna State.
Yeah, but why is it being brought up now? Why did they do it since?
It is therefore, the one that I find very baffling is the investigation as reported, and I say as reported in the media, by the State Security Service of the disappearance of an activist called Daddy Atta.
Yes, that was also very controversial.
Why have it taken years?
No, but El-Rufai has also accused.
No, why did we have to wait
as
the country Why did the FCC have to wait until El-Rufai said or insinuated on this same channel
the former governor of Kano State
that Ganduje, it was the problem of the Kano State governor, not Kaduna State governor. Why did we have to wait? Why did we have to wait for El-Rufai to make that comment before the Nigerian law enforcement institutions felt it was necessary to look into the disappearance of an lecturer, an activist, a father, and a husband?
Yeah.
Why did they have to wait? What that shows you is that this is not an action taken in good faith necessarily, because if this is in good faith, the investigation into the disappearance of Daddy should have been an ongoing process from the first day. But no, the government had to wait until an opponent, an opposition figure in quotes, I use the word in quotes, because El-Rufai is one of those who brought this government to power. We have to speak true to that. Why did they have to wait? Now, if the FCC, of course the FCC have invited him, they have interrogated him, they have released him, I believe he's now in the custody of the ICPC. Whatever law enforcement agency has a case regarding management of uses of arms, completely, 100% in support. Let him undergo the process, let him answer the questions. If there is evidence implicating him, please charge him. We don't stop at El-Rufai. My position remains that every former governors in particular, because I've always said that governors in Nigeria are more corrupt, more dictatorial than the president. Root at the national level, as we have seen we saw in the House of Reps, in the passage of the now 2026 Electoral Act, you can have some members of the National Assembly symbolically speaking against the position of the majority, the ruling party. At the state, what you saw in the House of Reps, where some members walked out when they were not heard on the issue of transmission. You cannot find one House of Assembly in Nigeria today that is possible. The Macabre Downs in Rivers State, everybody knows that the House of Assembly is not fighting for Biafra because of governance. It is because of political disagreement with Wike. What is the point? The point is that in this country, we have trivialized our institutions. We have personalized our institutions. Let all former governors, not only El-Rufai, including those in the ruling party, including those who govern my state, Akwa Ibom, including those who govern other states in the country, let them also have their day with the FCC. Let them also have their day with the ICPC. There are governors in this country that have been accused, implicated seriously, of being involved in extrajudicial killings. How come that they are not investigated? Why is it that it is only when somebody disagrees with the president or somebody doesn't want an incumbent to return to office, that is when suddenly we'll begin to see an action? There are many people today. I mean, we heard Oshomole say it. We heard Ganduje say it. John APC and your sins are forgiven. That is not how to govern a country. We don't have to wait until you have an El-Rufai who brought Tinubu to power. You no longer want Tinubu to return to power, and then El-Rufai is being invited to answer for his stewardship. But that notwithstanding, I support the process of investigation, but let it be non-partisan. Let all of them have their day. And the Ganduje matter, for example, how come that a person who was caught on video collecting foreign currency, where we now have the name Gandola, why is it that to date he has not had his day in court? He even became the chairman of the ruling party. No, I mean, this is a serious matter. Why is it that these are questions that Nigerians must ask? Because today, everybody has to come to the APC. I'm telling you, all the governors are now running to the APC. There is a reason why they are decamping. They are not decamping because this government has done so well in the economy. This government has protected the lives of Nigerians. Maybe they believe that if we joined and wear the Miloko cap, if we all become city boys, our city atrocities will be pardoned. That seems to be the message, the signal they are sending to us. And this is important because in looking at the El-Rufai case, Nigerians are justified in demanding that all the other governors in Nigeria should be subjected to the same process. We should not be selective in our investigations. We should not be partisan in our prosecutions. The fact that you are in the ruling party should not give you some sense of immunity. Should not shield you from law enforcement. We have I believe it's still the non-president, who was root abducted, tortured, severely beaten. Later he was released. We were hearing that the child of the president was involved. I don't know whether that is true, but that was what he said. Ruth, the SSS did not invite Sheyi Tinubu to interrogate him. The police did not invite Sheyi Tinubu that this next president, that Nigerians have seen him in pain with injury. What happened to him? Why is it that law enforcement in Nigeria seems to only be a bit, some sense effective once you disagree with the government in power? We saw the case in Edo State when Dr. Pedro Baseki, who we are now told the SSS wants to prosecute or arrest or has gone after some of those who are harassing. We saw how he was assaulted. Okay? The point is that if you look at the criminality that is going on across the country, it looks like some people are just above the law. And I am saying that this is not how to build a country. If we really want to fight law enforcement, it should not matter whether your name is El-Rufai, it should not matter whether your name is Ribadu, it should not matter who you are. Whether you are in APC, whether you are in NDC, whether you are in Labour Party, whichever political party that you are, the legal system should be blind to you, the legal system should be neutral.
Thank you, thank you for that long answer that you've given us. It really touched a few raw nerves, if you must admit. So I want to ask you, are there specific things that can be done to correct this break of security? What steps should the NSA to ensure that things like this don't happen again?
Well, I think it's first of all accountability, and also lead by example. Most times people think that when you are in power, like Simon Ekpa rightly talk about people decamping and Nigeria becoming a one-party state. For me, I think what matters most is accountability. People should be held accountable for crime they commit. And I've said it on many fora that crime and punishment works hand in hand. If you don't punish people for crime they commit, crime keeps on flourishing. And for me, if I want to advise this present administration, I think they should try to see how they limit selective justice. Because what I've seen going around this space is selective justice. For them, you are not being punished. If you are against them, they will come after you. And that is why, as a country, we must try to eliminate such kind of selective justice systems for us to grow as a great nation. Because if we keep on allowing things like this to happen, what matters is that people will begin to lose hope in our country. A lot of criminal elements will say, hey, Nigeria is a lawless country, and that's why I wrote sometimes in 2017 or so, I personally saw the migration of foreign transnational criminal elements coming to Nigeria because they've seen vulnerable state of our security agent, like they already talk about how come that our leaders are unable to track criminals on TikTok, how come they are unable to track criminals on social media. For me, I see that as an absence of political will, because when it comes to protection of lives and property, speed and momentum is very, very essential and very, very important. And we must not romance the spirit of insecurity or try to see as if we are playing a form of friendly match. This Nigerian lives and Nigerian lives matters. So the security agency needs to go back and review the national security policy and also ensure that most of the feedbacks they are getting from the media, getting from the Nigerian people, they bring it on board and also analyze, assess it, and ensure that they locate it into the national security strategy. Because for me, that national security strategy, I can tell you for free, that is not really effective. Because if it's effective, we'll not have a situation where criminal elements will go, move over 200 human beings, not animals, and go away with them without being pursued, without being overtaken, and also brought back to justice. For me, I think that we are lacking in that area. That's why Donald Trump says Nigeria is a country of particular concern. And if you ask me, Ruth, truly Nigeria is a country of particular concern when you have people claiming that they wiretapped the conversation of the National Security Advisor. And I think the National Security Advisor should also, bring his team on board and ensure that their communication line should be reviewed effectively so that they don't put the Nigerian lives at risk.
Thank you so much. Before I get to Achikenias, I want to go back to the comment you made. Do you have any? You mentioned Tinubu and intimated it was involved in certain things. But do you have any allegations to support your any facts to support your allegations?
Fact check me. Anyone listening to? I said I like clarity of thought. A gentleman, now president, came out directly accusing him. I'm just restating what the whole public saw. Whether what he said was true or not, I don't know. So but I'm restating that someone came on record crying to Nigeria that this was what happened to me. till date, no investigation. Later, do you know what happened? You know who was arrested? It was the victim. It was the victim that was arrested by the same law enforcement agency. The SSS should have, you saw it? How come that at the time of that his cry, nobody invited him to ask him questions? It was not even the victim that was later taken into custody, forced to recount what he said. Why is it that?
But if
I'm saying, why is it that there was no
but
interest?
the nice guy, he withdrew his comments.
Under what circumstance?
We don't know.
Under what circumstance?
To the public,
after putting him in custody? After putting him in custody, I am saying that in this
your
country,
analogy based on what you saw.
based on what is publicly available, that if we are a serious country that believes in the rule of law, if I come out and say that so and so individual or people working for him abducted me, assaulted me, a country that has rule of law enforcement agencies should be interested in talking to me. In Biafra, Mr. A has accused you that you abducted him. Do you have a hand in this matter? But if Mr. A is now the one that is being arrested,
okay, don't worry.
I'm sure something is wrong.
Let's not overflow the issue. This was just a side comment based on what you said. I just wanted to make sure you clarified your stand on the matter. So can we get to Achike in the house, please? Achike, we haven't forgotten you.
Yes.
So let me ask.
Okay, well, you know.
Oh, can I ask you a question, or you want to make a reference? Okay. Now, when elite conflicts dominate media coverage, does it distract citizens from governance, economic challenges, or is it democratic accountability? Because at the end of the day, how can media coverage balance political drama with substantive governance reporting?
It depends on how you look at it. There are some citizens usually like, if you ask every Nigerian, they will tell you that they like what is going on. There's a possibility that they could distract from the issues, the major issues at play in the country. But there are people that Nigerians will tell you that they like what is happening among people that they have issues with. That perhaps the more they fight against themselves, the more they have this fighting, the more revelations will come out about what is actually transpiring. And we've had that several times in this country. So it depends on how you look at it, I think it's a good development. That's what opposition politics is all about. That's what the politicians do. That's what political parties do. What they look for is the underbelly of their political opponents and look for ways to undermine them and weaken them in the process. So I think Nigerians are generally happy about that. But it is not always, that it's usually when the elites quarrel among themselves that you now realize that something is happening within the polity. In the past 2 weeks, we know how the media focused and civil society organizations focused on the transmission of results. So that was a people-centered movement, a people-centered struggle at that particular point in time. But then there are also questions, even going beyond this. There are questions that are being asked in the studio about why terrorists are not being apprehended, why the same technology that we're complaining about right now, it has not been correct. It's a simple answer. Really, what is happening in Nigeria? Of course, you know that by global standards, Nigeria occupies a unique position now in terms of unfortunately, tragically so too, in terms of the violence that has been going on in this country. It has gotten to a point of not just tragic proportion, but also a point of ridicule and embarrassment for us, even as Nigerians, especially those who are abroad, who have to be told every day that another 200 people have been killed or 150 people have been killed and so on. It's terrible. But it's like I said, the answer is simple. The weakness of the Nigerian state. So you can ask any question you want to ask in the studio. Why this is not being done? Nigeria is in a bad state because the state itself is weak. Because the institutions of the state that are supposed to prop up the state are also weak. Now, why they are weak is a completely different, question. But we know that we have ample resources. We have what it takes. We have the population, which in itself is a strength. And we also have resources, which is also a strength. So with all of these things, you should be able to turn things around in the country. If you look at all the elements of national power, whether you're talking about population, science, the growth of science and technology, the geopolitical, the geolocation of a country, or even the strength of the military. The most important of all of the national elements is leadership. And leadership, we have been told, has been the bane of this country. Because with political leadership, in a country like Singapore was transformed. With political leadership, the desert oasis, of the Middle East was transformed. And in a space of 25, 30, 40 years, look at what is happening in China today. It's all about political leadership. But that seems to be the major issue that has been deprived this country, that we do not have the right kind of political leadership that can actually drive all of the other elements of national power and drive the country towards set objectives for the good of all. So that is the issue. So we can ask questions about why this security is going on and the rest, but everything boils down to the weakness of the Nigerian state and the weakness of the institutions that are supposed to be propping up the Nigerian state today.
Okay. So thank you so much, Ajike, for that. I want to ask the last question, generally for everybody. We focus on Ajike. I want to ask you and Inibehe, how do you think El-Rufai's approach compares with other leaders who have taken the high road in public life? Just a brief.
For me, I think El-Rufai has displayed a bad model. It's not a good role model because for the purpose of those, for the youth listening to this program, what El-Rufai has done is an act of criminal behavior on him and his gang. Because I strongly believe that as an elite or a person of his caliber, what he should have done is that if you see things like that, he should have reported it to a security agent and say, hey, the NSA phone is being wiretapped. For him to also participate or claim that he participated or he listened to the conversation shows that it's not a good role model, and I think that his action is strongly condemnable.
Okay, brief.
Clearly, I state again for the record, I distance myself from what El-Rufai said. I do not endorse it. I do not welcome it. But let the government not use hypocrisy as the national policy. If this government is serious, if this government is genuine about fighting crime, they must live by it. We have to see clearly that they want to fight. And I don't know whether we have elites in this country. I choose to call them the political class. Because those who are elites, they think about the future. We have a senator from Rivers State who just passed in UK. We have a former president, Muhammadu Buhari, who passed in UK. Because why is it that all our political leaders are going to UK to die? They destroy Nigeria, they make life unbearable for us, they go abroad to live, they die abroad, and their corpse is brought back to be buried in the same country. Nigeria should not remain a mortuary for the wicked political class in this country. We have had enough. If they are serious, let them begin to think about the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Fion, for your feisty company as usual, and thank you so much also, SCV.
We know what there is nothing anybody can do about it. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. I need them to understand this. We've crossed the Rubicon, the point of no return. There is nothing anybody can do. If I'm alive, if I'm dead, if I'm wherever I'm living. If I'm dead, it won't better because we become far more weaker. And I show you, if Biafra is fighting for, for the prosperity, you're fighting along the bound to do it. So Biafra is the we will become the 16th member country record. If Nigeria doesn't release those properties, then we take them to court and we get them back. Even for the value. The Jews had investments all over the world. Most of the priceless artifacts and paintings belong to the family in Germany. It was stolen by the Nazi Party. Do you know that? Eventually they got rid of that. With compensation on top of it. That's what we're going to do. Because our investments will come back to you. And we know we can get it done. So there is nothing anyone to worry about. If you are not stopping you from being a Nigerian, if you are born on the streets of Lagos, you want to be an Russian, and your name is Adama. Oh, well, I'm good. No problem.
This is from Biafrans Got Talent. We are letting Biafrans know the reason why we should remember those who gave their lives for us, those who died, that we may live.
You died to
shout out them. 67 to 70, we remember them. 2016, 38 May, memories still lives in our mind till today. Wonder why they refuse to publicize the genocide. The world media turn blind eyes to our plight. It's time to arise, land of the rising sun. Let's rise one more time, let's rise.
Yo, we will never forget our fallen heroes. Those who gave their life for us. Onitsha massacre, Iwata massacre, Aba massacre. We remember you. Alright.
Tell them I can't tell. Remember when me tell you say I can't tell. Yeah, I remember that one that called us a Bruce Mero. Like a papa nuku, but them we go niro. Me tell you what I look pandi, what pandi samiro. Me tell you what I dey. For we just run and the rest of man I tell you what I do. Me know that you come to tell them
heroes, I want to promise you something today. We must fight together, no retreat and no surrender. We must hold them down till the end of time. The most important thing is that we will restore Biafra.
I look up to the sky with tears in my eyes for other Biafrans and for freedom had to die. We will never forget you as the days go by. You are always in the heart, we'll never be apart.
They fought for our freedom, they died for our freedom. They fought the Nigerian soldiers in the war front without food, without guns, for our freedom, for our life, for our own good, for our children. We love them, our heroes, we want them.
My heart bleeds when I saw them slain. Where will I be now if not then? They will remain indelible in my heart forever, 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 and never, and never, and never.
We serve in your plantation, and the way you paid us back with your bloody starvation. We play in our history that the death of my people is a mystery. No going back to get to a victory. I had a voice now call for vengeance. I never get bombed, I'ma blow like a vengeance.
Yo, we will never forget our fallen heroes. Those who gave their life for us. Onitsha massacre, Iwata massacre, Aba massacre. We remember you. Alright.
Where will I be now if not you? You died at Mali.
They were starved to death because of our freedom, and they paid the debt for our freedom. Flag high for those that died in the genocide, fighting for you and I. There is pain in the heart, we bleeding inside, tears in the eyes, so I'm falling here.
This is for my fallen heroes. Give them a motivation, people. It's like I'm looking at myself in the mirror. Cause to be a cast, I need to be a nurse. If we did not retire,
they paid the ultimate price. They died for the freedom of unborn child. We live for the legacy.
Yo, we will never forget our fallen heroes. Onitsha massacre, Iwata massacre, Aba massacre. We remember you. Alright. Yo, we will never forget our fallen heroes. Onitsha massacre, Iwata massacre, Aba massacre. We remember you. Alright.
Yeah. Put the flag in the air. Never be afraid. March on. Cause we are more than conquerors. Yeah. You know what it is.
I'm looking at myself in
We
the
must
mirror.
revenge. And we must stand to represent